this morning. I hope you can all hear us. If you can't hear, then please put something down in the chat below, and we'll just make sure. But at the moment, I think we're all here. Jade and Karim, can you both hear me well?
Can hear you.
Yes. Good, brilliant, thanks. So I'm really pleased to be presenting this webinar this morning. The topic for the webinar is eBay UK and exploring all the growth opportunities on the eBay marketplace. I have the pleasure of being joined by Jade Galloway Harrison from eBay UK, who's one of the business development team and has been supporting many brands to drive their sales on the platform, and will be showcasing and showing what you can do on eBay and how you can grow your business. We also have with us Karim Redabay, who is one of the implementation and onboarding specialists on BaseLinker and has lots of experience on helping sellers to onboard onto BaseLinker and to integrate with other platforms. So the agenda for today is you're just going to switch on to the agenda. Yeah, here we go. So the agenda today is what we're going to talk about will be, first of all, Jade will go through an overview of eBay for business and the top tips when you're selling on the eBay channel and the kind of trends and the markets that you can consider while being on eBay. And then we'll move into Karim, who's going to share a bit about how you can use BaseLinker when you want to sell on eBay, some examples of how that works, and we will then finally finish off with a promotional offer from both eBay and BaseLinker for everyone that has joined the webinar today. And then we will follow into some question and answers. I'm sure after the presentation from Jade and from Karim and myself, you're going to have lots of questions that you're going to want answering. So we will answer as many as we can on the webinar. If we don't get the opportunity to answer them on the webinar, then we will make sure that after the webinar, we send you through a list of the questions that have been asked and the answers to those questions. In addition to that, we'll also send through a copy of the presentations and a recording of the webinar that you can then be able to use. So before we kick off, we just want to I'm just going to hand over to Karim. Karim's going to go through some questions that we'd like to ask right up front, just so that we make sure that the content for the webinar is aligned to everyone that's joined.
Yes, thanks, absolutely. Thank you, Kevin. So yes, we would like to kick off with a short survey. It's just about 2 questions to get a better feeling who has joined us today and how we can help you with answering your questions. So if you would just please answer those quickly. 2 questions. Let's give roughly 30 seconds to 40 seconds to get answers about who is using eBay for now, who is using BaseLinker or other software to manage their sales. I can see some answers already falling in, about 30%. Let's give it a minute more. Thanks to this, we'll be able to, better adapt our presentation and maybe go in depth more into what is your most, most important questions you might have today. Okay, so let's give it just like 10 seconds more. Still receiving some answers. Okay. And I believe we can display now the votes. Okay, so 3, 2, 1, go. And we're sharing the results. As you can see, most people are now familiar with selling on eBay. Some have some experience but have stopped since, and others haven't sold on eBay yet. Maybe during this webinar, we'll be able to convince you to start selling on eBay. Then when it comes to the software that you are using, the answers are very various here. I can see some people using BaseLinker and others don't use any software. So this webinar might help you in getting convinced that such a software might help you really a lot in growing your business on eBay. So with this, I would like to hand over to Jade, who will be presenting you with the opportunities from eBay. So thank you, Jade. There you go.
Thank you. Hi everyone. So as Kevin mentioned earlier, I am Jade, Business Development Manager of the Home Improvement and Garden categories in eBay UK. So my role ultimately is working with businesses who are onboarding to the platform and helping them through that whole journey to get up and running. So today I'm just going to be taking you through a few bits around eBay as general and sort of where we sit in the market, but also what we're doing. And some new product announcements that have gone out over the last couple of weeks, but also over the last year or two, just to give you a bit of an insight in what's going on eBay. And then I'm going to dive into some best practices in running the store, running the business, and some really key points to think about in terms of how to grow the business on site. So if we start with this slide here, and this just gives you a pretty general overview of where eBay sits within the UK. And that top left, 81% items sold as new. I'm actually telling you a bit of a porky there, and it's actually come down ever so slightly. But it's quite interesting as to why, and I'm going to be talking about that towards the end of my presentation today and the opportunity that's going on there. But what we see here, it ultimately is a picture of what is trading through on eBay. And it's very much a picture of what is being sold through via businesses on eBay, and where we sit at a much higher portion of B2C selling through the platform versus the C2C is where I'm hoping that this presentation today, and with the businesses that I work with generally, where we show the opportunity and how it can appeal to a business. Now, where we see there in the bottom left-hand corner, 80% of eBay users start their shopping journey on eBay, and tie that in with the 17 million, roughly, unique visitors a month and 25 million active buyers. We know on eBay we have a very loyal customer base, and as with every shopping platform they will have. And that's the interesting part about why we'll work with businesses in opening up a new audience. Yes, we reach 54% of internet users. Yes, we are the second most popular e-commerce platform in the UK. But what a lot of businesses don't realise is with that very loyal customer base, it's usually and quite often an untargeted customer base, and therefore expanding onto eBay often opens up a new channel for opportunity. So with that, and just to touch on that very lightly, and I'm going to come into more bits throughout the presentation, I wanted to give you a bit of an idea outside of my own categories, what goes on eBay from a product side and what makes us interesting. So I'm going to start off here with our luxury and sneakers category and jewellery. So some of you may be aware, but authenticity guarantee has been brought in over recent years, and it allows the buyers to purchase products that are high ASP, brand products that previously, going back a few years, might have been quite a risk to a buyer. Am I buying something that is going to be genuine? And what we've put in place is a product to enable that buyer to buy a product that is genuine, that has been authorized, authenticated by independent authentication centers that we have partnered with. But it also allows the sellers to be able to come onto the platform and know that they will be recognized for selling product that is genuine, and therefore bringing a wider audience to the platform. And you'll see shortly in some data showing what is trending on eBay that Rolex is one of the top most searched brands on eBay. And with that, it's just shown how that move in trying to give the buyers more promise and reliability in buying on the platform, and then bringing the sellers with the inventory. We're trying to enable our sellers to bring more and offer more, and it sort of take away that old mindset of not being able to buy things on eBay and know that you're going to get what you've paid quite a lot of money for. In the parts and accessories and motor categories, so did you know that you can not only purchase tyres on eBay? Of course you can, but you can also now arrange to have those tyres fitted by purchasing on eBay and then arranging within the eBay platform, one of our 3,000 centres in the UK, to have those tyres fitted. So may or may not be relevant to everyone, but this just starts to show from a product perspective how we are partnering with businesses outside of eBay to be able to offer more of an experience, more of a buying experience. The reason that we did this was we recognised in this category we had a lot of searches, a lot of buyer demand, but more often than not, when you go to buy a product, sometimes whether it be specialist or whether it require a service to fit, that conversion wasn't quite happening in the way that we wanted it to. So implementing something like this to sort of problem solve for the buyer just helped to enhance that experience a little bit further. And this is something that we're hoping to roll out into one of my own categories in future years to, again, support with that exact problem and solution solving of a buyer looking for a product and then wanting to have it installed. And then final example is in our fashion category. So there's been quite a few moves made within this category over recent years, and there's just a few examples up here on the screen of those. For any Love Island fans, you'll know that over recent years, eBay knocked off for the first time a big fast fashion brand. And we started to work with the platform to encourage and push circular fashion with Pre-Loved. It was always a joke, really, if you think a few years back, again, just touching on that high ASP product in the sneakers, watches and jewellery categories. Would you ever expect eBay to be working with Vogue, you know, sort of running PR ads and videos with Vogue and that message of circularity? And the thing is, we did it. And to have those two brands in the same bucket, I think really speaks volumes for what eBay is trying to do for the industry and circularity within fast fashion. Going back a month or so ago, you would have seen eBay on the runway with Balenciaga, a £700 odd t-shirt. And it's more so, again, just shouting out about what we're trying to do with these big brands, with these luxury brands, and really shout out about problems within the circularity of fashion. But also, you know, working with brands like Vogue is such an important aspect for treasuring products later on in life. So that gives you a bit of an idea of some of the great things that are going on just outside of the buying and selling and the everyday of eBay. But if we look at what else is happening on the platform in terms of what's trending. So this gives you an idea of in Q1 what we're seeing. Now, on the left side, on site-wide, that is pretty generic to the view that we'd expect to see. So you can see iPhone up there, generally a lot of tech, and as I mentioned, in there at number 9, you've got Rolex as well. To date, iPhone searches sit around 31 million on site, is absolutely enormous. So that view tends to pretty much stay very similar to that. But if we look over on the right-hand side, and I have been a little bit biased here and based it around the home and garden categories. And the reason for that is because we see a very clear picture going into Q1 of a message that I've seen shouted a few times now around people staying where they are, not necessarily moving. The mortgage and the housing market has really slowed down. And when we look at data and we see what our consumers shopping for within our platform, that message is very, very clear. Furniture itself sits up there quite high in the stack when on site-wide searches generally, looking at around 5.4 million searches year to date. And then in home improvement, again, around 4 million searches, 4.1 million searches year to date. Garden category around this time, as we'd expect, a bit earlier now, is starting to now come through, and you've got the top searches there in terms of people thinking about what they want to do for their gardens. It generally follows the same pattern at the start of season and the end of season, tidying up. So you'll have sheds in there, greenhouses, pressure washers and tools. And then you'll start to see the decorative coming through from around May onwards as well. So with these categories, as I mentioned, you really start to see a picture of people fixing up their homes More so, I'd say, than previous years. Not quite where we were going into COVID, certainly not. But there's definite potential in those categories around decorative also within each of those. So that just gives you a little idea of what we're seeing currently coming through in where we are year to date. Now, before I get into sort of top tips and hints and what you should be thinking about when you want to sell on eBay, I'm actually going to start off with a really, really important point that I try to stress to a lot of the businesses that I work with that are considering or onboarding to eBay. And this is the message around data itself and how important that is. Now, when I say data, and as a consideration point, not only for eBay, but for pretty much any online retail site, is exactly these pieces here. So you've got in there item specifics, which are your product identifier. So whether that be color, size, weight, measurements, etc. Titles and telling people what the product is. And I'll come back onto why that's so important in itself in a moment. Description and images. And all of these pieces of data here tie up on eBay as a platform, how you're going to be found and searched on site, where you're going to be showing up on site. Are you showing up in the right places? Is that in the right categories? Now, your item specifics play relevance to just below that coffee machine there. You can see a bit of data. This plays into your product identifier. So on eBay, that plays directly into search filters on the platform. And when businesses are coming on site and they don't take this as a priority consideration, it is going to immediately mean that you are not going to show up in search should filters be applied. And for a lot of categories, consumers are going to do exactly that, because consumers shopping generally want to come on, they'll have an idea of what they want and they will try to find exactly that. And obviously eBay is a platform where you're not fighting for one spot. There's lots and lots of listings. The buyers will want to use those search functions and then the filter functions to do that. So item specifics are huge importance when thinking about bringing your data onto site. Titles, using keywords for titles. So within not only eBay as a marketplace, but lots of marketplaces, this will definitely differ to your own retail site where your title will be pretty generic, not necessarily focused on keywords. However, in a marketplace, this is absolutely crucial. And the first 3 words within eBay Marketplace are even more crucial. And this often, again, is a point that businesses don't consider or invest time into, making sure they've got the right keywords and what's trending on the platform to ensure they're going to show up in the right places. Description. So although this might not always necessarily play directly into search, it absolutely plays directly into conversion. And the example on the right hand side there is from the AO listings that are on eBay. So AO as a business present themselves on eBay, and it was really important for them to show up as the brand, as who they are, and show their branding and create something that is familiar to their buyers on eBay and give that same experience and customer service as a buyer would expect buying from AO Direct. So there's a really small snippet there, but you can start to get an idea of within their description piece, they moved away from plain text and implemented instead a template. And you can do this via HTML if you have the in-house capability, or reach out to a third party to source something like this. But ultimately what they created was something that was shoppable, that allows the buyers to also see into their other categories, to see their other brands, to see other items that they have for sale. And what they've done there is they've created a listing that is within itself trying to create either a multi-buy or an upsell, but also gives the buyer straight up front all the information they could possibly need to know about the product, as exactly as you'd see on their own AO website. And again, this is a consideration that will often for businesses onboarding come later down the line. And as I mentioned, for conversion, for making sure you're giving your own brand exposure, but also giving the buyer as much information as possible. This is really important. And finally, images. So images can sometimes be a challenge depending on the product. There aren't always lots and lots of images available, but images are crucial. And on eBay, we would ask typically that you have at least 6 images. And the reason for this, an algorithm is going to detect your image count, because all of these 4 pieces of information here is basically where we can see you are trying to give as much information to a buyer as possible to convince them this is the right product and that they should buy it. Listings that lack images or lack enough information on images, if it's a specialist product, if it has lots of design angles, the buyers are going to want to see that exactly as they would if they bought from any other retail site. And again, this is often a point that is missed, and a seller will launch with one image that's not clear, might not have a white background, and it is absolutely important to telling your buyer what it is that they're buying. So that gives you an idea of what data points and why it's important. But I thought it was also really important to show you exactly the effect that that has when you've got one case versus another, one doing it well and one not doing it at all. And fortunately enough, I had a great example this year. So I had 2 brands. We've got Seller A here, launch in the same week, the same category, same product, same price points, launched in January this year. Now, Seller A here, they're both retail brands. They are both known within the UK market, within their category. Seller A launched in a soft launch. So they launched their store live, were hoping to start selling, but still had a lot of work to do on the account. And some of those pieces that you'll see there include delayed item specific, so they weren't fully complete, delayed branding, so hadn't allowed themselves to show up in the descriptions, in their store pages with branding, delayed images, so not enough image, not enough context to the buyer of what it is they're buying. And it took 4 weeks to achieve their first sale. Seller B, however, launched on day 1 of launch with us, fully optimized, everything completely done. And they sold items on their first week of launch. Now, to give you an idea of that impact there, Seller B had 31% more impressions from the point of selling to now than Seller A. They've also had 129% increase on their GMV in their first week of sale. So comparing that week 1 to week 4, 129% more GMV in week 1. And year to date, that's led to 72% GMV. So gross merch value sold on the platform versus Seller A. And you'll see there on that bottom right-hand graph, a picture of what that looks like. So how quickly or how slowly your sales can be affected by having those right elements of data into your listings. And it's absolutely crucially important, as I mentioned. So we get onto the how, what, why. Now these slides, they're quite information heavy, but I'm going to be pointing out some overview of what it is that you need to be considering, not only when you're onboarding to eBay, but through selling on eBay, through maintaining and through updating while you're selling on site. So inventory selection and the listing creation and the inventory management. So with inventory selection, determining the right stock, price points, shipping and service levels. For buyers shopping the site, you want to try and make it as clear as possible what it is that you're selling and have it showing up in the right places on site. And again, that all plays back into a data perspective. From a seller view, when you're deciding what inventory to place onto the platform, if you're going through the onboarding process, this is where you'll have myself, if you've got a third party involved, and our onboarding teams to help guide you on this. However, when you're selling throughout on the site, past that point, you might be a few years in, if you have a subscription store on eBay, so this is where you've got a shop front, an opportunity to really sell yourself in the shop, have different categories. One of the perks of that is having access to Terapeak. Now, Terapeak as a function will give you 2 dashboards, and one of those dashboards gives you a view of what is trending on eBay. So it'll give you an idea of what is selling through, what is being searched, what the available inventory is, right down to those item specific. So let's say you're a seller in the bathroom category and you have lots of different material types of taps, but you're not quite sure, should I put all of my inventory on? Should I put some on? That tool is going to give you exactly those answers. What is the best selling? What brands are really converting on the platform? Where should you be investing your time mostly? And also, what are your competitors doing? So when you're determining this, right, either as a new seller or as an existing trading seller, having an eye on this and what your competitors are doing on the platform consistently is really, really important. When you are creating your listings as either a new seller or as an existing seller, again, taking into account all of those points that I just mentioned around the data itself, but also building a brand experience. And you're going to want to do that, whether it's right in the beginning or whether it's something that you're thinking about now, and how do I do that? When you see brands selling through on the platform, whether that be a retail known brand or an independent brand, and you have a look at their shop profiles, one part you will notice on that shop profile, and you will on your own if you have one, is a following count. As I mentioned earlier, eBay customers are loyal and they will want to shop the same places again. If they find a store on eBay that they like, that they know is reliable, that they've bought from, they've had a great experience, they will shop it again. And this is why we have that follow account. It presents opportunity from a seller perspective to reach an audience that's existing, that is following your account, seeing what you're doing, but also to grow that, and that branding experience plays directly into that, and that's something you're going to want to create for your buyers on the platform. Next up, we have the transaction and the fulfillment process and the customer services and management. One of the biggest fall downs for brands on the platform in onboarding and through their first 12 months of trading is not paying attention to their standards, to their metrics on the platform, and how that plays directly into their feedback and how they're rated on eBay. And if you're selling on eBay or not selling on eBay, you'll be very familiar with the below standard, above standard, top rated seller and premium service badging. And all of these aspects here directly impact and correlate to those standards. And this is going to be something as a priority you're going to want to pay attention to throughout your first months, most crucially, where you've got our support, but then also onwards trading. And all of these parts here, so orders, payment, delivery, customer services, returns, and ultimately the feedback, all play directly into how you uphold and maintain that. So as a first thought in onboarding, the question is, how do we manage all of this? And of course, through the orders and the listings, the onboarding team will help work through, manage this for you to ensure we are setting you up for success. But as an onwards thought, one of the biggest things I see consistently is those that have set themselves up in the first instance without considering the scalability of the business. So, okay, I can manage these orders now. It might be I've done a manual setup or CSV imports. I can manage these now, fine. I reach a peak selling period. I do a big event, or I really start to scale my orders, and actually that's now reached a point where it's a stretch on resource for my business, but they hadn't considered that right in the beginning. What happens when we reach that point where resource becomes a stretch and we need to start to automate? And it's often that point that the businesses will fall down because they quite honestly get behind on maintaining these standards. And it's of utmost importance that that is maintained throughout. Now, onboarding with eBay, and going through the journey with myself and my team, these are all areas we'll cover off in absolute great detail. And if there's anyone on the call today, and no doubt there will be, that has questions around these areas, I could talk for a few hours on this. This is where I'd be happy to do a bit of an analysis on your account and see what's happening, how you're working, and how do we get you to a point where you can comfortably scale that account. And then finally, marketing and branding. Again, a big point that brands don't often consider. They get so excited to get the inventory up, to get selling, to get everything live. And they don't think about, how do we compete on marketing and branding? And this is a really, really big part. On eBay, if you've got a category that is trending, so right now I mentioned you've got the home improvement, the furniture and garden categories trending, and it's in season. So it would be, we're getting right into garden season now. So it's the point where all of those lovely sellers selling furniture are competing. And not using the levers that are available to you from within your account or from eBay's trading teams will cause you to fall behind. And whether that be promoted listings, or whether that be focusing on that following count that you have on your store, trying to grab those buyers that are already of a potential or watchers on the account. Really great opportunity to convert your watchers by implementing certain trading levers, such as order discounts or multi-buys or sale events and markdowns. And these are all really, really great tools, because they're exactly the same as you would be doing on your own retail site. And you can just mirror or implement that onto eBay as well. And obviously, as I mentioned, it's giving you opportunity to leverage yourself versus your competition, or stay within trend, stay within season, running sales through, certain times of year. But then also allowing yourself to be marketed and be branded in the right way, and be reactive also. So as I mentioned, a lot of businesses don't consider this point when they're first initially onboarding, but it's absolutely crucial. You wouldn't open a new store, a new shop on the high street and not want to shout about it to everybody who wants to listen. And that's exactly the same attitude that you should take when you're onboarding to a marketplace. And equally, we're interested to work along that process with you. Now, the graph that I showed earlier of the 2 retailers that have launched this year, that traffic you would have noticed on the labeling is based on organic traffic only. So that is without marketing. If you were to put in the traffic from promoted listings, from activity, that graph just explodes for both sellers. So seller A, who hadn't quite implemented any of that, as soon as they started to, and they needed to because they needed to catch up, you see that visibility really start to explode, and then that start to come through into fruition of sales. So it absolutely is important. The area here that people don't do this activity, whether that be a sale event, whether that be a promoted listing, whether that be a coupon if you're in the invitations, is because they're quite unsure of what to do, when to do it, and how to do it commercially so that it works for the business. And again, if that's something that you're sort of stuck at and you're holding off on, do reach out, whether it be to me or my team. I think my details are going to be shared at the end of this, because often it's just an education piece as to truly what is the value there, and there always will be value in doing it, but doing it in the right way. Okay, so I guess the question of how eBay can help. So I've given you a lot of information on what's important in thinking about setting up. How do I set up? What do I need to prepare and think about to get my business off the ground on eBay? And I wanted to finish around a couple of points on how eBay can help and the opportunity. And I think some of this will come pretty obviously, really. But I wanted to also reiterate focuses on the platform and sort of where we see opportunity from businesses and what we're hearing in the industries generally. So business growth as a focus, as I mentioned earlier, eBay will have its own unique customer that is untouched to your current platforms. So business growth in general is often one of the reasons that businesses will want to come onto the platform. So they want to grow their visibility, they want to grow their audience, target a new audience, or whether they're growing just generally multi-channel. So that one in its own speaks for itself. End of line and clearance and return stock and refurbish almost sit in the same bucket. So you're verging on the non-new here. And this is where we've seen, especially over the last sort of 18 to 24 months, I would say, a big push in brands really starting to look into how sustainable they are as a business. What are they doing with their end of line and their clearance stock? Are they selling it via the typical channels? Or are they considering marketplace such as eBay, where you've got that's our bread and butter ultimately. So whether it be for non-new, whether it be for slightly marked, whether it be for you've got refurbished in there with different grading options if you're approved refurb, which I'll come into in a second. But you've got an audience on eBay, a very unique audience that wants to buy that inventory stock. Now, again, all of those pieces on data and how you show up and how you market that product, very, very important. But should you do that well enough, you've got a buyer there that will take that inventory. And as I mentioned, businesses that are considering how sustainable they are as they're moving towards their own sustainable goals and targets internally, will have inventory sets that sit within these buckets, absolutely, that might not yet have considered eBay as a platform to sell it. You've then got the sellers that are doing it currently, they're just not doing it well enough. And again, it's about revisiting how are you showing that product up on site. Now, as I mentioned earlier in that very, very first slide where it mentioned 88% of our products sold as new, the reason that percentage is actually taken a dip is because where we as a platform have worked very, very closely with some retail brands in the UK, and I'll give you an example in a second. Actually, I'll just click forward now so you can visualize it. But where we've worked very, very closely with brands in the UK, and this is a really, really tiny snippet list here of who those are, to really, really push refurb, to give products a second life and sell it through to buyers that will love it. It has brought that percentage down ever so slightly, but for the right reasons. And this ticks a big box within those internal businesses in terms of what their product's doing, and they're maintaining and managing that end-to-end sale for those second-hand goods. But also, as I say, getting it onto a platform that is built to do and push exactly this type of product. Again, whether it's return stock, so again, it might be slightly blemished, marked, missing a bit of packaging, or again, whether it's just end-of-line clearance and obsolete inventory. As long as you've got, your price points, your images, your descriptions in there, selling everything to that buyer, you've got a really, really strong platform here to be able to sell that through. And I guess the message on the right-hand side there, along with generally how eBay works, is that you have complete control over everything that you're doing with that product. So where it goes, who it's selling to. We have a really great program at the moment working through with Decathlon and bikes being returned and working with the circularity of that, selling secondhand bikes on eBay, but actually encouraging footfall back into the store to get a credit note for the product. And again, that's bringing the goals into what as a business they want to focus on and maintaining audience and footfall within the stores, but then also having an outlet that they can control and they can see end to end where their product is going out to in the market. Now, as I mentioned on the refurb program, for brands that sit particularly in appliances, DIY, furniture, sporting goods, health and beauty, as it mentions there on the screen, this provides a really great opportunity for those that have really great standards on the store to be able to have the exclusive refurbed badging for the 4 item conditions, to allow those buyers to see what it is that they're buying, allow them to ultimately pick and choose a price point versus a condition point that they would like to purchase and sell through. And again, for a business perspective, because you've got potentially a bucket of stock to sell through, to get rid of, to do something within the business. And you've got a buyer who knows what they're buying because it's been marketed well, it's been sold well. The returns on that are incredibly, hugely lower than it would be on a new product. But you've also then got the higher visibility because this is something that us as eBay are really, really pushing and really, really believe in. And from a business perspective, you might have brands that are selling through their refurb on site, but they're also selling through their new product on site also, with 2 very, very different offerings and the 2 audiences that you'll have within that bucket also. And I'm going to finish off my piece here just with some examples within a range of categories, a very, very small snippet, as you can probably imagine. Some examples of brands, businesses, manufacturers, builders, merchants even. Again, a little bit biased to my own categories, but just giving an example of the wide range of businesses that we work with. If you take the range there in the middle, for example, a retailer that is in almost every town now. Their growth has been enormous in the UK, and they joined us on eBay just over a year ago now. And again, you would sort of ask the question, well, they're available, they're readily available to consumers, they're online, they offer delivery, why would they join eBay? And again, it's the same ranges that they have in their stores selling through on eBay, and it's offering a new audience for them to access and unlock. And I just wanted to finish off here, just as I say, to give an example of all the different solutions that these businesses needed answers to, and where eBay has been able to offer that. So I imagine there's probably lots of questions off the back of this, which we'll get on to. But I'm going to hand over now to the BaseLinker team to give an intro on who they are.
Thanks, Jade. Thanks. Fantastic content there and information. I think it was really interesting to understand the importance of the data that sellers need to provide to ensure that they can kick off really quickly. I mean, the slide that you showed regarding, having that data as early as possible and how your growth could really be, brought forward, and your process of actually building and growing your store on the marketplace is much better. So that's a really good sort of segue into what BaseLinker is and what we do as a multi-channel integration management solution software. But first of all, just to kick off, I just want to go into just to share a video which sort of gives an overview of what BaseLinker does, and then we can move into how we can help sellers on eBay.
As a seller, you certainly want to process hundreds of orders every day, but are you ready to handle them? With BaseLinker, it won't be an issue. You can use BaseLinker to manage the sales from all channels in one place. Easily list hundreds of offers, and the system will receive your orders, generate invoices, send parcels, update warehouse stocks and prices, and even print labels and receipts. All of this is thanks to the system's integration with hundreds of other services, sales platforms, carriers, accounting solutions, or communication tools. No matter how many platforms you need to integrate, you can easily adapt BaseLinker to your needs. Your customers will be getting all the updates on their orders, and when you take a call from them, you'll know what to tell them even before they ask. Save time and money with the top e-commerce solution in Europe. Register an account at www.baselinker.com and test for 14 days for free.
Kevin, you are muted at this time.
Thanks, Karim. So just want to give some sort of headline numbers of what BaseLinker is and where we've come from. So we actually help e-commerce businesses across the globe. We work with around over 25,000 different companies, and they range from small startup companies that are working or selling their products on their own websites to companies that integrate with multiple different platforms and marketplaces, right the way up from sort of small business up to enterprise customers globally. We process over 85 million listings for those customers that use our platform. And that's been generated over, we've done 18 years of development. So we started over 18 years ago. Our founder, Seva, who started the company in Poland, and we built a solution at that stage, which was for Allegro as an integration partner to help one of his friends to actually be able to sell better and more efficiently on that marketplace. And then from that idea, as it grew, it then become an opportunity to actually evolve the product and develop it so that it was fitted for other marketplaces and the solution for distributed commerce. And then it's grown just from Poland into more countries that are using the product. We now have over 1,000 different integrations, and those integrations range from marketplaces to other sort of service software that an e-commerce business would need to be able to centralize all of those different functions and optimize and simplify actually the day-to-day managing of all those duties that you would do for your business. And we currently have over 16 billion annual GMV that is put through the system from all of the sellers that use our platform. We have local teams. Obviously, I'm from the UK team and head up the UK country. We have teams in the US. We've got teams in Brazil and other countries as well. And those localized teams are there to help support and give guidance to all of the sellers in that country, provide onboarding support, and really get to ensure that you know how to use the system in the most efficient manner. So as I briefly said, that one of the key things about what BaseLinker does is it allows you to create this one central hub of software that will help you to facilitate all the different things you have to consider as an e-commerce seller. So anything from all of the different shipping integrations or shipping services that you might be using for your business. Also, how you will manage, as we've explained today, and we're talking about eBay, how you will manage integrating with all of the different marketplace opportunities, because as a seller, you want your products to be visible in as many places as possible. So by putting those onto different marketplaces like eBay, you get the opportunity to sell more of your products. And to do that, you need to manage all of the data, the setup, the attributes, how you're going to connect to each of those marketplaces. And we help to facilitate that. Also, you've then got the orders, and I think Jade touched on earlier that, you know, one of the things that they see is when you go through peak periods, you could have, you know, these big fluctuations in the amount of orders that you have to manage. And, you know, having one place to manage all those orders that are going to be coming in from all the different marketplaces and all these and from your own website is how can you bring that all into one solution that makes that more efficiently and easy to manage. We also then obviously you've got to consider about your stock synchronization. So how can you make sure that all of those different areas that you're selling your products are going to be, you know, you're selling on eBay, then what happens on your website, and you want to connect all of those things together. You know, BaseLinker helps you to make sure that you can manage that across all of those different areas. And also then you need to consider the pricing. So making sure that you're efficient with the pricing that you're going to be showing to your customers on all those different platforms, making sure it's right, that you're not going to be underselling or overselling on the price. And one of the other huge benefits that you get from using our software and actually helping is automating a lot of these processes. So as a business starts to scale and you get bigger, there's more things you have to consider. If you can use our system, it will then allow you to automate lots of things. So when an order comes in, how that order can be processed, when it gets put to a pick and pack and dispatch, whether you want to send it out with this courier, depending on the size of the parcel, all of those things can be automated, which takes a lot more of the labor that you would normally expect as your business starts to scale and evolve. And the other thing I just wanted to point out about the system before I hand over to Karim, who's going to go into some examples of how we integrate with eBay and how that will benefit you, is the flexibility of the system. So whether you're a small or a startup seller or someone that's just starting their journey, you may only have your own website and you're now considering to use eBay, or you're using eBay. Even in that one configuration example, you have to consider about how those two, both your website and, like if it was in this example that's shown on here, Shopify and eBay are going to connect to each other, and how you can make sure that there's those, you've got the consistency of your products and your pricing and everything else. You know, you can use BaseLinker for that kind of solution, but actually BaseLinker provides you with a very complex and an opportunity to use us in many different ways, whether you've got more than 10 or 15 different marketplaces you want to integrate, whether you want to integrate with your accounting software so that's all automated, you want to have printer and receipts that are printed out in a pick and pack and dispatch in a warehouse area. So if you've got all of those things together and you want to try and make that an easier solution, then that can be helped by our system to bring it all together into one hub and make it an easier way for you to process orders and sell your products. So I'm now going to hand over to Karim, who's just going to go through some examples of that in action.
Yes, thank you, Kevin, for giving us the bigger picture about BaseLinker and what it can do for businesses when they are growing or just developing their sales. What I would like to focus on is more tips and tricks about using BaseLinker with eBay to increase your sales or make your marketing even better. The first thing is, how easily is it to integrate BaseLinker with eBay? We have integrated seamlessly with eBay, and it doesn't take any tech-savvy knowledge. You only have to click one button which connects you to eBay. It redirects you to the website where you agree to the connection. One important thing is you might be selling on different eBay accounts, and all of your accounts can be centralized within one BaseLinker dashboard to manage all of your orders within one place. Which brings us to the next question. What aspects of your eBay activities can be managed through BaseLinker? So we've seen the bigger picture, but in going into details, we can know, of course, about the orders being managed through BaseLinker. This is a basic view of your order list where you would receive different eBay orders within one dashboard. We can see the different orders coming from accounts. Sometimes it might be orders that come from your own web store, like Shopify web store or other platforms. But everything is seen within one dashboard with different statuses assigned to those orders. You can see the shipping methods that have been picked by your customers. Of course, it also takes shipping, and this is easily handled by BaseLinker. So if you would be integrating your carriers like Royal Mail, UPS, ShipStation as a broker, or a Parcel Hub, for example, all of those can be shipped through BaseLinker. And what we would take care of is sending those tracking numbers back to eBay. So eBay knows that you're on time when processing your orders, and the customers receive up-to-date information about their orders. We, of course, also manage your product information, and products have very different kinds. There can be very different kinds of those products. Sometimes it is really good to promote your product having a variant on eBay, which is a neat feature allowing your customers to select some variants when it comes to color, size, or design. And all of that is handled through BaseLinker. So every product can have different variants with different pricing and stock levels. Obviously, you can have different products in categories, and we manage all of that information as it comes to your descriptions, parameters, pictures, which has been mentioned by Jade and already answered in the comments. We handle up to 16 pictures for eBay, which makes it much more than the 6 required for a good marketing point of view. The next thing would be, how can I import my existing eBay offers, or rather, can I import my sales on eBay to BaseLinker? Absolutely, yes. If you are already selling on eBay, you have your product base there and you have your ongoing listings. We can import all of the data back into BaseLinker, so you can receive a full database of your products, and then build upon it. You can also import products from your external storages, like a web store, which would be Shopify, WooCommerce, or any other one, or through a CSV file import. And based on those products imported, you can create new listings on eBay, same as managing your actual listings that are ongoing right now. How can BaseLinker make listing on eBay more efficient? This is a really often asked question, because listing on eBay is not that hard, but it can always be more faster and easier. What can BaseLinker do for you is allow you to list in bulk. So you would have your products, let's say a new batch of items you received in the latest delivery, and you want to put them on eBay. What we can do for you is you would select all of those products, let's say 50 products, and list them in bulk on eBay. The system can pre-detect your parameters, or you can set up your own parameters into the system, and we would fill in the parameters within eBay so they get better. The algorithm picks all of the information and keywords within that listing. One important feature is, as you can see, the title of this slide is listing in bulk without AI. BaseLinker has been developing its own AI that helps you in listing products on eBay. Thanks to this, what you can see right now is listing in bulk without any category selected and with basic offer names. Those titles are reflecting the product name, but can be improved as some keywords can be added to that for better search results. While using the AI, it takes only one hit of button on the AI feature, and what we would have is the categories would be matched directly to the item based on their descriptions and titles and parameters, and the titles can be improved and get more keywords into those search fields. The next thing would be, how can I contact BaseLinker customer service? This is a very recurring question, because we don't want you to be left alone once you start your journey with BaseLinker and eBay. You might have many questions that come up. Our BaseLinker customer support is available all around the clock. It's 24/7, so any day of the week you can ask your questions through our ticketing system. Nowadays, we guarantee a 3 hours time response, but usually you would receive an answer within an hour, and we would be able to answer all of your questions. With this done, we would like to move into the webinar promotional offer. So because Jade and Kevin have prepared some offers for you, so I'm handing it over to Kevin now.
Brilliant, thanks, Karim. So yeah, so following anyone that's been on this webinar and listened to all the great information that's been shared by Jade about eBay and BaseLinker. So Jade, do you just want to share what offer that you've now put up for as a promotion?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is a promotion for new business sellers joining the platform. So we can offer a 12-month eBay shop subscription. So I mentioned that earlier on in the presentation. And this is a subscription that allows you to shop front to your eBay store, but also lots of other lovely benefits, including therapy access, as I also mentioned, along with 3 months, 50% final value fee discount. And that is valid for 30 days from today. So for businesses that are inquiring and confirming and onboarding during that time.
Fantastic, thanks Jade. And then from BaseLinker, we're going to be offering for registrants, new registrants to our software, a 30-day free trial to have a look at the software, which can be done today. And then after that, a 50% off of the first 3 months fees. And we're also going to be offering a free onboarding support service. So everyone that registers, we will contact and help them to set up and integrate with the platform and with eBay, etc. So yeah, 2 great offers for everyone that's on the webinar. What I will do is, once after this webinar is finished, we'll send over the information for these promotions on how to contact the contact information for Jay, so that you can send through to register, and the same for BaseLinker, plus obviously all of the slides and the content that has been shared today. I think we were going to go now into sort of a question and answers, but I think we've got about 3 minutes left. So, and we've got lots of questions that have come through. So thanks everyone for the questions that have been submitted. What Jade, myself and Karim will do is we will go through all of the questions and make sure that we answer them and come back to you individually. We'll send those in with your pack so that you've got the answers to those questions. But I think as we're running close to the end of that, I think it's just great. I think thanks ever so much, Jade, for sharing all about eBay and all of the sort of tips and insights that you know, we can use to try and use the platform in the best way possible in the marketplace. It's a huge opportunity and can be added as an added channel for any seller that's looking to grow their e-commerce, and some great sort of guidance and the importance of the data that they're sharing. So I think that's really good. So thanks very much, Jade.
No, that's okay. And if I may, Kevin, because I can see a few messages coming through from our existing sellers, and obviously our existing sellers, yes, I would love to have conversations with you around how we can support. The reason I didn't put a specific promotion in there for existing is because you guys will have various different things within your journeys that you'll want support with or need support with. And there's lots of tools available that we can offer to you. So for any existing who want support with the business and scaling, please do reach out and we'll have a direct conversation. I haven't missed you out. You are equally as important.
Brilliant. Thanks, Jade. Thanks, Karim, for going through and sharing, obviously, the integration with BaseLinker. And hopefully, I think with the amount of questions that we're getting, we definitely should follow this up with another session, probably more around the questions and answers. And we can answer some of those and maybe build another webinar from that. But again, thank you both for joining. And thank you, everyone, for joining the webinar. And have a great day.
Thanks all.
Thanks.
Thanks,
Bye.
everybody.